Aloha, this is Santa surfing. Welcome to Beach Broadcast. Today is Thursday, August 28th, 2025. I was going to do a podcast on all of these Trump highlights in the cabinet meeting and a few other things, but I'm going to just play one highlight from the cabinet meeting and then something else President Trump had said. It was in July. But I really want to focus on you on this podcast. It is all about you, your memories, your moments, just having those times. Now, if for some reason anything happens to one of my channels, you can always find me here under the links page. The videos, daily shows are now on Rumble and on YouTube. So I am back on Rumble full time with longer podcasts. And then once a week, I'll have a summarized on my radio stations and on YouTube. So this podcast is about you. So when I have on my locals, when you join on locals, I'm not able to do this for just the subscribers on X. For some reason, I'm not able to do it. So I'll figure it out. I have to work on some other kind of technology, and my assistant she can probably help me with this. But we had a live yesterday, and we were just talking about things that really had us like really just embracing moments on our lives. We have a live every Tuesday, and now in the month of September, after next week, it'll be twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it's really when our ohana gets together. Ohana means family in Hawaiian. And it's when we get together, a bunch of surfers, and we just start talking story. And I just kind of read your chat and we talk about that. Well, you all got me so excited about some of the stuff that when we were talking about walking around, how Moses had taken the slaves out of Egypt and to give them their freedom, right? And during this time, Moses was leading the people out of slavery and into the promised land, but there were obstacles along the way. They were getting still chased by the Roman soldiers. They were still going after the people. God gave Moses the power to part the Red Sea, to just go ahead and take the rod that he held and make water out of it by striking a rock. He did many. There were many miracles along the journey. But what happened was Pharaoh had ordered a decree to kill every baby male. And so Moses's mom eventually put him in a basket in the river, and Moses was found by an Egyptian who happened to be the Pharaoh's daughter. So she raises Moses to become this incredible leader of the Egyptian nation. Moses grows up thinking he is an Egyptian. Moses had compassion for the Hebrew slaves and didn't like the way that they were treated. And yet he, again, didn't know that his bloodline is that he was a Hebrew. Now think about the parallels in today. Moses then he let's say fesses up and says, I am a Hebrew son. I am the son of a Hebrew. And he then asks Pharaoh if he can go ahead and free the slaves. Well, it ended up happening. Pharaoh said yes. And as they went on their journey, that's when Pharaoh, it was Pharaoh's son, who really had a little remorse in releasing the slaves. So they went after the slaves, and of course Moses had to go through many obstacles, including crossing the Red Sea. Can you imagine walking through an entire ocean? And then eventually once all the Hebrews, let's just say, they weren't slaves anymore, ended up on the other side of the ocean, then the water receded and all of the Egyptian soldiers that were after them got flooded out. So here you have Moses, who was at one point poised to be a part of to run the kingdom of Egypt as an Egyptian, not really knowing he was a Hebrew, left his life of that to help the people. Does that sound familiar? Then what happened? The people, they were complaining along the way. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? The lack of faith that the people had caused, and again, they were born into slavery, unfortunately. Does that sound familiar? But the people ended up not having the faith, and all they needed was to have the faith. When Moses went up to go get the 10 Commandments from God, I mean, talk about just an incredible moment. During that time, I don't know how many days, months, or years that Moses was up at the mountain, the people had lost hope. And so they started doing really bad things and sinning like crazy. And of course, God punished that generation and allowed the next generation to get their rewards. Now, similarly to what we're going through, we were talking in our live yesterday. So I have a live on locals. And this upcoming month, it'll be the second week of September, I'll go back to 2 lives a week. But we were having a live and talking about 40 years of slavery. If you think about 40 years, let's even say 45 years, and we've been in slavery a lot longer than that, since most of you were born. Now, not unless you're 111 years old or older, most of you that were born into this world, you were born into a form of slavery, yeah? Whether it's the financial corruption slavery, whether it is the dirty politician slavery, whether if you are in your 20s, you rose up in, you were born into a world that had already been so woke and so corrupt, and that it was almost the new norm, and they wanted that to be that way, and all of these horrible things that just started to come from it. But again, you're young, so you really didn't know. But for Gen Xers and baby boomers, there's a lot of you that reminisce about the times when you were a kid, right? So when we had our live yesterday, we were talking about exactly that and talk about a paradigm shift. So what happens on these lives is I start a topic and then I kind of get your conversation that you have in the chat going here. But I wanted to go ahead and read some of these chats. And you all had me on locals. You all had me rolling. Okay, we were there together, and that's what we do. It's like total squirrel conversation. But it was just a way that we just getting out of the news and talking about something completely different. And the topic is really the path to glory. But we were talking about what were we doing 40 years ago? What did we do when we were kids? You know, again, the common things: drinking from a hose, But these are some of the things that you all were talking about. Suzanne says we rode our bikes all the time, banana seat, right? Playing soccer out in the street. We used to play a yard or lawn darts, right? And that was kind of fun or scary, depending on who you played with, right? And then there we go, yeah, playing lawn darts. And then it was just drank from the hose and played hopscotch, right? If you hear some of these, you might think, gosh, I remember that, you know, and we knew that where everyone was because their bikes were laying in the front yard. It was so much fun. Dawn New was saying that, and it's so true, because what happened is back in the day, you used to ride down your neighbor's bikes and you'd like, oh, look, hey, you know, you'd see a pink bike with little tassels and it's like, Susie's over there. Let's go over there. And they were parked at different homes every day. It was a different place that you can go hang out. Either you were hanging out in the backyard, you were hanging out mostly in the street. And then many of you all were commenting about when there was a car that would come, you all would say, car, you know, and how there were so many thoughts, and suddenly the conversation in here just suddenly shifted into just a joyous group of big kids, right? Me and my brother would used to go out into the woods and shoot each other with BB guns, and then he cried when I shot him in the forehead. We had, Viva says she had a neighborhood full of nutcases. It was so much fun. Jumping rope with all our friends, right? Eating and driving restaurants. The waitress wore roller skates that came from Nemo's girls. And think about, what did Elon open up in Los Angeles? Didn't he open up a drive-in? And there is a 24/7 restaurant or like a snack center, and it's operated by Optimus robots, which is super cool. And then you have the drive-in, and at the drive-ins it was so much fun. You had the rowdy group kind of sitting way in the back making a lot of noise, and then just a lot of laughter. And then when there was a scary part of the movie, you'd hear just the echoes in the drive-in, just everyone going ooh, or when there was like something that was so hilarious, you'd hear all these bursts of laughter, and just those moments, right? And then also, as a kid, did your mom say, okay, I need to vet the family that you're going to go see? No, your mom was like, have fun, come home by dinner time. Whenever dinner time was, you came home, you ate together and had dinner with you and your parents, your family, roller skates all the time. And it was just just a lot of fun, where we just didn't care. We were just a very uninhibited group of people, right? And just knowing that we were safe. And that's, again, this is before the milk cartons came out, and when and then playing tetherball and just dodgeball. Ooh, the dodgeball is kind of scary. Football on the streets, and having the water balloons, and depending on where you were raised, if it had snow angels together, just doing the fun things. And then, like, some of you may have had younger kids in the neighborhood where they had little big wheels. I'm just bringing this up in detail because I want you to just capture those moments. Did we, as a group, as a family, a large family, come working on our way out of slavery, having to find someone that will leave their billion-dollar lifestyle to help we the people? Think about that parallel. Think about the parallel of the 40 years. Has God said, okay, enough? Because many of you have gotten to the point where you're like, you know what? I can't get any more in my bank account. I can't make much more money. I'm doing this. Or maybe you have a situation where you're unable to, and you just say, I'm just going to praise God every day. And I know God's going to continue to meet my needs and bless me. And when you have that kind of paradigm shift of not being the victim, but being the winner, and knowing God's going to keep you winning. Come on, we survived 4 years under Biden in between Trump public eye presidency. 4 years under Biden, you can make it now, right? But President Trump, he's got some surprises, and we know those surprises they're really going to be glorious in many ways. But so we had just a great conversation, and just talking. There's a lot more in here, but just talking and chatting and laughing it up about the crazy things that we did as kids, right? And just staying positive, just constantly thinking about, I can do it. It is possible. All things are possible. I can do it. Manifesting greatness. It's interesting because as we prepare for God's greatness that's going to be coming, I keep updating my humanitarian list. Do you know I've had to cross out 3 major things about that? And one was to take care of the veterans and finding kind of programs for them, or how they can get help, or maybe this is, again, I've been thinking about this even during the Biden years in terms of how they can get medical help, and how whether it's their medical bills can be paid or at least supported in some way. Then I was thinking about the homeless veterans, and then of course the homeless people. What has Trump done in the 6-7 months? He has already taken care of those 3 major issues. Homeless veterans, he's taking care of them. He's preventing them from getting into foreclosure as well, which is phenomenal. He's got a veteran center that he started already in California, and it's a center for all the different needs they have. And then he's eradicating homelessness, getting them off the streets. Yes, to keep them safe because of what is coming, but more importantly, to transition them into a life of living. We've never had any president or any world leader that really made that a part of their priority. Manifesting that kind of those positive things is just how suddenly the shift is happening. Are we done walking around the promised land? Did God say, okay, it is time? So yesterday, President Trump, and I'm not going to get into too much detail on this part, he did call out RICO charges for George Soros and his son, Alex Soros. Now, that's a very big, bold post. Why? Because they are incredible. They were the people, the horrible people that kept you in slavery. They were the pharaohs, if you will, the evil people that wanted to make sure that they wanted to make sure you would never prosper. And Trump he's taking care of it in his own way. He's pulling us out of slavery by incorporating different things. It's a very interesting way of looking at this. In our chat yesterday, I'll share that in a moment as well, but it was a paradigm shift. So the wealth within nation, we are a very wealthy nation now that President Trump has come back and has started to roll out many things. In the first term, he was just trying to find out who the real ones were and not, and what have you. He had to take care of a lot of things. He had to, unfortunately, work through their system to try to figure it out. And then, of course, he had the help of the military and the White Hats. Here he is into the second public eye term. I say public eye term because we know that he was working behind the scenes for the last 4 years, but he couldn't do anything. It had to roll. It has to play out this way. So what is it? Think about this. In 2017, on December 21st, he signs an Executive Order 13818, which is seizing assets of those that commit human abuse crimes. Now, again, slavery back in the days of Moses, that was human abuse. Slavery today, we were dealt with human abuse. We were forced to get flu vaccines. We were forced to get vaccines for this scam COVID. We were forced to do many things. We were forced to use the financial system rather than paying with gold and silver. We were forced to go ahead and take your children to school and have them sit and not really knowing what they were going through, but they were getting indoctrinated into a woke, very horrible, woke, evil agenda. We were working with a justice system that was corrupt. Everything. All of that is slavery, in my opinion. But this is what President Trump did on the eve of Christmas Eve, from what I've... on Christmas Eve 2017, most of the swamp woke up to their accounts being bye-bye, gone, right? Think of all those seized assets. Now, I again, I'm not making this a money thing. I'm talking about how the freedom starts to roll out. But some of us equates it with money. Like, for an example, some people equate who they are by what they do for a living. And it's just a condition. It's the way society has ingrained most of us. And they use that position of whatever they do. They're a manager of so-and-so. They're a CEO of a company, whatever they are. They use that position to substantiate who they are, when in fact they are really a good person, but they've never really had the ability to let that come out, right? Okay. So, like, somebody might introduce you as, oh, this is my uncle, or this is my aunt. There's my uncle, and he runs a really successful business. And the uncle's like, okay, can't you just call me the uncle? That's a lot of fun, right? Okay, so think about the wealth, what happened. So on the eve of 2017, the swamp, most of the swamp, I'm not sure of all of them, but most of the swamp woke up to being broke. They had no money. Everything got locked out. They got seized. Can you imagine? I mean, going into your bank account, it's like, oh, I can't even get to it. I can't get to the funds. I can't get into the Bitcoin. I can't get into the other alternative assets I have. Those got seized. Think of the Rothschilds, the Soros. Okay, we know they've all been dealt with, but we have to see, we're that 5 to 10% of the entire world's population that knows what the heck is going on. Think about the swamp people, right? The past dirty presidents, the celebrities, the crooked politicians, the crooked CEOs, etc., etc., etc. Think about the value of what was seized in the billions or the trillions, and this is in 2017. Let's say he doesn't get that until 2018. Remember, President Trump started his world tours in the middle of 2017, his first year in office. Then think about how Trump invested those seized assets into crypto and the value of those assets today. Even if he says, okay, now I'm taking it from that account and I'm going to go ahead and invest it into, let's say, I'm using this as an example, don't hold me to it, I'm just using this as an example. But if he took it and said, let's go ahead and roll it into XRP, and let's say he did that 6 years ago, right? If in just that 1 year, from last year to today, or last year to a couple of months ago, it surged over 400% in less than a year. Imagine how that accumulation of wealth has grown for the seized assets portion only. Then think about the tariff funds coming in. Do you think Trump is going to let it? See, this is what happened with the government. The government would get all this money, and then they'd pocket a lot of it. You know, they'd have a way of laundering that money right back into their own pockets. Let's give the money to Ukraine, and it comes right back in their pockets. Let's give the money to here, to some particular U.S. aid grant, and it comes right back in their pocket. No, President Trump is taking the money and he's investing it for the future of not just only our nation, but for the world. So think of all the tariff funds coming in and how Trump has invested that money. Then think about the $900 billion just from 2 countries, right? 2 countries that says, here you go, President Trump. We're giving you collectively $900 billion. We're going to trust you to invest it. Don't think about that and how many other of those deals has he worked out and how he's investing it. Then think about our national debt. He can wipe out that national debt with a blink of an eye. He could do that and just say, okay, it's gone. Then think about the domino effects of how much more, how slush that fund is. I have been told in the past, and again, this is years ago, 5 years ago, that The number of digits that follows is 40 zeros. 40 zeros, guys. I don't know what that's, some super quadrillion dollar amount. Can you imagine, again, the accumulation? That's enough to cover everyone's debt, just about all, I think, around the world, right? And imagine if everyone were able to get a clean slate. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying, is that what the plan is over time? Trump is not one to write a check and say, here you go, have fun with it. No, he's teaching us to be frugal, to look at ways that we can conserve on this or conserve on that. I saw somebody who I was talking to her yesterday, and she was telling me about how she saves $80 a month in toll fees, because she takes the country roads around. And I thought, that is so cool. I mean, giving us that way of thinking, of being conservative in many ways, so that we can go ahead. And I remember also quite a few people say, is money even going to be relevant? Think about if everybody were in the same position and a reset button was hit. Think about, how will our life live? How will we live? We'll be growing a garden, getting maybe a little bit more land, so that we can grow a nice garden. Those things, and then how you're able to help thy neighbor. And it's not going to be if you can, it's when you can, right? So that's how Trump works. Trump is a stable genius. God is working through Trump. God needed you to help us get here. So this is one of the big highlights President Trump said at his cabinet meeting. But I'm going to play another clip first. Don't hold me to it, because I always seem to get a lot of pushback. But I know many of you are struggling right now, but there's two choices. You could struggle and be miserable, or you could struggle and say, I know God's got this, and I'm going to thank God for everything I have today. I'm thanking God for the chair I'm sitting in right now, for the device that I can read what's going on. I thank God for electricity. I thank God for my pillow. I have a blanket. If you thank God for those little things and truly mean it, watch how God will reward you and bless you abundantly. And it is truly abundant. Let me start with this one first. This was aired, this was President Trump with Howard Lutnick on mid-July, I believe it was July 17th. And this is what he says that on the tarmac as he's ready to leave. Check this out.
With the date you gave August 1st, but the date that you gave August 1st, right. Why stick with the date? And you're saying that
payments start on August 1st. The only thing that's really sacred about August 1st is that's when payments start. So they have to start paying billions of dollars to you and people. Are you a citizen of the country?
Yes,
all right, good. You'll be very happy, because you're going to be getting a lot of money. Just like they found a budget surplus. We have a budget surplus of $25 billion. Everyone said, how did that happen? It hasn't happened in many years.
President Trump is very careful in his choice of words, but he is talking about the tariff monies that was the deadline is August 1st. Now, 2 days ago, he had an extraordinary cabinet meeting, 3 hours and 17 minutes long. It was very long, very powerful, but this is what he said then.
Right? But, there's a concept of making you could call it a dividend, as we would say, making a dividend to the people in this country who have had to suffer through stupid leadership, and they paid a lot of taxes and they got nothing for it, or they got attacked like you were, okay, for it. No, there's a possibility. Primarily, we want to pay down debt, but there's a possibility that we take a piece of it and make a dividend to the people.
And very interesting, isn't it? Now, here's the paradigm shift. Most of us think about paying off a debt by writing a check or putting an online payment, yeah? What if, now again, just stay with me, guys. I know it's probably crazy talk, but I've been talking crazy for 5 years, and now all of a sudden everything's come to fruition that we have all been collectively putting together, yeah? So hat tip to all of you. But what if there's the accumulation of wealth? Because if you go to an X page and you just look up XRP, you're going to see different kinds of things in here. And like this one here, and you can decide on the accounts, but I kind of look for the content here that XRP has been successfully tested by 11,000 banks within the SWIFT network. Okay, that's huge. And that just came out today. So, and how many other Brad Garlinghouse, Gemini, XRP card has a credit card that if you use the credit card, you get XRP instead of bonus dollars. But how the significance of using XRP. Again, not financial advice, but if you had the accumulation of wealth. So, and we were talking about this yesterday in our live, we were talking about many of us are looking to our bank account and we'll see, okay, you've got $10,000 in there. Okay. And maybe one of your accounts. You have 10,000. You log in the next day, you have 10,000 again. I'm just kind of scrolling through the XRP thing. The next day it says $10,000 again, right? But what if you had an account where, let's say, the banks transitioned everybody into an XRP account, whether you want to or not, and because this would be a way that it's a stable coin that's going to be monitored with Space Force helping us out so you don't get hacked. I'm not saying you won't get hacked, but I don't know the protocols and what's going to be coming out. But what if suddenly you start to see your account, the $10,000 today, you go in there the next day, and what happens if it says 11,000? What if you go in there next week and it says 15,000? What if you go in there the following day and says 20,000? I'm just saying that as an example. Those are very aggressive numbers I'm giving you. But just conceptually, what if that were the case and it helps pay down the debt? I don't know how Trump is rolling this out. It's completely different than when I first started to talk about NASAR and JASAR many, many years ago. Because it's a different system, and it's something that President Trump has suddenly started to embrace as of like last year, early part of last year. So when you've got many big players, you've got Brad Garlinghouse that's supporting the XRP. You've got Ripple Bank that is more than likely going to happen as being a Ripple national bank, where it will be an international bank, guys. And that was they said it's supposed to be approved by November of this year, 2025. But is it going to be open at that time? So we are watching a huge, huge change. You've got Lisa Cook, who's no longer the governor for the Federal Reserve, and then so what does that mean? Who's running her job right now? And is that getting replaced? So there's a lot of stories. If you just look into the X page and go to XRP, you'll see a lot of information about what's going on with XRP. But is that the accumulation of wealth? And that was something that Kimmy Lee had brought up on Locals yesterday. But can you imagine President Trump? He is so excited. He cannot contain his excitement. But the swamp things have to get taken care of first. Why? Well, number one, we already know many of them got dealt with, but there's still the lower level group of people. So when that gets dealt with, again, we talked about it in the last couple of podcasts, how President Trump has paved the way, making sure that all the foundation is in place to take care of whatever news is going to happen with the swamp. But he's excited because he knows he's got something wonderful to give to you and to the world, and how it's going to change the entire... Again, think about this: no homelessness, no poverty. Think about a world without poverty. Think about a rich world with, let's say, lush lands, being able to grow fruits and vegetables and having non-processed foods to eat. Oh, that is life-changing. It is truly going to be absolutely glorious. And when the glory does come, to always be thankful and to just embrace our Lord Jesus, our Lord in heaven, and just to say thank you. But just looking forward to family time again, just like laughter, the families, the adults, their parents having time with their young children. This to me is wealth and laughter, the time you can never get back, right? Adult children enjoying their time with their parents, and whether we'll have the galactic world joining us. Oh my gosh, how cool that would be. But knowing that we have so much beauty to look forward to, and we're all so close. Yeah, so close. And wow, what a time to be alive. But just to know that our Lord Jesus is like, come on, I want you to just start living, even regardless of your circumstances. Just please start enjoying the life you have today. But just looking forward to the laughter, the smiles, and whatever God has planned for us, just knowing it's going to be one day we'll wake up and it's going to be a version of Christmas morning every single day. God bless you so abundantly. Have yourselves a beautiful day, afternoon, evening, and I will have a show very soon. Aloha.